All right. Again, we have several crews. I mean, this news is captivating newsrooms, of course, across the D.C. today. We want to get back out to Delia Gonzalez, who is there now out of the car, off the phone, on the ground for us. Good morning.
Good morning. As you were talking to Matt Gregory about the silence in that area, we are feeling that here as well on the 4700 block of Benning Road, closer to the media staging area across the street from KIPP. We are about 3 lengthy blocks away from the scene of Hannah Place, where this is all unfolding. You know, and something else struck me as you were having a conversation with Wisdom earlier today, just about the children who came to school with their Valentines, much like my daughter did, in her hand, ready to pass it to her classmates. Many children with balloons, hoping to have a great day today, and they walk into this and see all of this. And when you talk to neighbors, and they tell you about the repeated trauma that folks in some communities are living with, this is exactly what we're talking about. Young people, certainly feeling the impact, not only today, but for days and weeks to come. And hopefully, you know, the educators inside will have services for these young people, because, you know, we've heard so much, especially as we continue to talk about crime. It is top of mind as we think about and continue to debate in the council the Secure DC Omnibus crime package. You know, people say the fear, living in the fear of crime happening is almost as bad, I should say, as being a victim. Living with that fear of something happening is almost as bad as if it did happen to you. So while we know these children are safe, while we know these parents are safe, while we know these residents who live nearby are safe from this activity, just living in this area and seeing this constant activity is traumatizing for a lot of folks. I talked to that mom, Kiana, who I spoke to some time ago, who has a preschooler here. We were trying to get that sound and that portion of that interview over to you so we can play it. But she said, this happens here all the time. This happens here all the time. I wake up to sirens all the time. And I said, well, nothing to this extent. And she said, no, it's never this big. But police never respond when it's in this large of a manner, when it's a pedestrian who has been hit. Those were her impressions. That we're seeing this large police presence because members of their own were victimized and were hurt today. But she expressed pain almost that when her neighbors are victimized as well, or are injured at the other side of a gun, she doesn't see this type of response. Those were her words, and we wanted to share that with you. So we will work on getting that portion of that interview today. But I am really struck at not only this ongoing scene and what we know our police officers are going through, and how carefully they're trying to navigate this scene in order to bring it to a peaceful end for everyone here involved, but really for the residents who, we descend on their neighborhood and do back-to-back coverage to talk about what is a legitimate, ongoing, stressful scene that we have here, developing situation. But so many have told me this happens every day. We hear sirens. So even though we know the children are fairly, traumatized and were impacted by going to school and seeing this massive scene, listen, let's not think this doesn't happen in many communities around our city, far too often. And so, you know, I'm going to pull back on really being and really saying any more. But those were just my thoughts, and just in the discussions that I've had with people, not only today on this scene, but just in the time that we've been talking about crime in this city, that folks are seeing this far too often in their communities. And so we are hoping that we will have a peaceful end to all of this. As I want to just, Ruth, just spin around and let's see one more time what we're looking at here. This, as even Matt Gregory had said, is kind of the staging area where police are beginning to strategize before heading up to Hannah Place. So we know we are about 3 blocks away from Hannah Place. We saw an armored vehicle a short time ago in this general vicinity. It's not quite as packed with as many cruisers as we saw earlier today, but even beyond what our camera can even capture and what I can see further up the road where that light just turned yellow, we're going further up the road, and that's where Hannah Place is. There are still several cruisers, and you're seeing a bit more activity there. And I do see some flashing lights. So this is a massive scene, and we certainly don't know when this will come to an end. Police will give us the all clear, of course, when they are able to get this situation under control. But it is eerily quiet. Everyone who was out here, the onlookers who are curious, have all gone inside. I don't have any indication from any of them that they were told by management or by police to stay inside their homes. They were just cautioned and told to stay away from the scene. But as Matt Gregory had reported, and as we have told you earlier today, throughout the day, that there are major roadblocks in this area. So it will be challenging for a lot of folks who do have to navigate to either pick up children at the end of the day or head to school later this afternoon. But right now we know the children are inside, they are safe, and those who are arriving are being escorted in by police. But really a very quiet scene outside of KIPP DC here on Benning Road and F Street. Back to you.
And you just mentioned this, Delia. We've been talking about this all morning long about the schools that are involved in this area. We were talking about Garfield and Plummer that are on lockdown status, and we're also talking about KIPP DC and Woodson, which are on secure status. So inside the building, they're dropping their kids off. And then, well, they've already done that. They've already dropped their kids off for school for the day, and then the parents, the ones that left, and then everybody stays inside the school after all of this started and things started to escalate.
And Delia, you mentioned we don't know when this will end, and so I'm curious. I know we're still trying to get in contact with schools and ask them about the plan moving forward. What will dismissal look like to make sure that the children are reunited with their parents safely?
And hopefully it will all be over soon. Of course, we'll stay on top of it. And Delia, we have to let you go, but we hear you loud and clear that a police presence is seen in that area when it involves their own. We hear you loud and clear on that and what you've talked to neighbors about. So thank you so much for your insight. We do appreciate you.